Hello everybody, welcome back. It's another work day. Today it's all about Game Master preparation and we're going to make some stuff, but we're going to have a small presentation which I will do first. I will be posting a poll for those of you who are interested. You can take part in the poll. Feel free to use the comment section because I will be keeping a track of the comment section for those of you who want to give your feedback. And this is very much a live stream where feedback is important, so I want you to be part of that. So feel free to take part in that by all means. So my suggestion to you is grab some food, some drink, make sure you are comfortable. There's a lot to cover. Actually, there isn't. It should be reasonably short and quick and sweet. The image you saw before was actually the Dungeon Master Guide for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, 1st Ed Edition, 2nd Ed Edition, the Pathfinder Game Mastery book, and I do actually have another book here as well, which I think we might wind up using. We'll see how we go. But as I said, make sure you have some food, some drink, make sure you are comfortable, and we will get started and cover this for today, and then we're going to go and make something. I know what you want to make. It's all right. I understand. So, given all that, let's get started, shall we? Hi, welcome to How to D&D. Oh, man, I used to be How to D&D, but now I'm How to RPG, How to Role-Playing Games. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today we're going to talk about Game Master preparation. And this is intended to be Lesson 5, Creating Magic Items. I will be definitely talking about magic weapons because I haven't really gone into magic weapons, and it's quite deliberate on my part, you'll find. It's often where people try to start, and it's not necessarily a good idea to start there. So I've made sure that we haven't started there. We started with magic items that were common, and we're going to progress. But the overview for today and purpose: how to create magic items, creating balanced magic items, magic item inspiration, where you can get those ideas from, the process of making magic items, and some miscellaneous recommendations. And this is supposed to be system agnostic, so it should apply to any role-playing game you are currently playing or running. So the objectives: to explain how to create your homebrew magic items for a role-playing game. I'm going to demonstrate the process to you as well. I'm going to allow a practice example, so I want your feedback, so make sure you have dice close by. You may well need dice for this whole process. But first off, I needed to say that the sponsor, this live stream is actually sponsored by World Anvil, which is an online web page or resource that allows you to store all of the things you create. That could be magic items, monsters, your different worlds and maps, NPCs, characters, traps, puzzles, anything that you make for your role-playing game can be stored here. And if you go down to the description, you'll find a link to their website. And I have to thank World Anvil for doing this, because it really does make a nice big difference. And hopefully they are happy with the results that we get over time. So go check them out when you get a chance. Okay, let's go straight into nuts and bolts of things, shall we? And that is how to create magic items. Well, first off, often the creation of a homebrew magic item results in a string of problems for a game master. And I could list all of those, but there's really no point. All you need to know is there's going to be something that will happen that will cause problems for you. And it's nice to be able to correct those problems or avoid those problems if you can. Players will generally want more power, more options from the magic items and weapons and armor that they're going to find in the game. And this affects the Game Master's preparation process and your ability to develop a challenge or something difficult for the player characters to overcome. Now this is going to vary depending on the rule system you're using, but this often is the case that magic items can make a huge difference. Magic items can drive the role-playing game campaign if a game master makes the magic item a major feature of the story or adventure, or it's a MacGuffin of some kind. So don't rule off magic items as being bad. They're not. They have a purpose and they do have an effect. And because they are magic items, they're going to affect your world in a way that you may not be expecting. So my suggestion to you is start small, incorporate homebrew magic items slowly, don't do it quickly. And this will reduce the number of issues that will occur. It won't eliminate your problems, but it will reduce the number of issues. To eliminate your problems, you would have to be omnipresent and you'd have to know everything. You can't be a god, okay? You're just a person, so don't expect perfection. You won't get it. Right, creating balanced magic items. It's often the question that I get asked the most. It's the question that most people have, is how do you go about doing it? It's not practical to create a magic item that is balanced in a role-playing game. For example, in the game of Dungeons & Dragons 5e, characters don't need magic items in the game to be successful. The game assumes that you can be successful and achieve what you need to achieve with the character powers and options and features that you have. There is no need to actually have any kind of magic items. So that creates a lot of problems for you if you're playing Dungeons & Dragons 5e. Now, if you're playing something like Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 or 4e or even Pathfinder 1st Ed Edition, I don't know very much about 2nd Ed Edition, but these games I have actually played myself. They require characters to have magic items to keep up with the monsters in the game, okay? So you will find that if you don't give them magic items for those games, they will struggle. Whereas something like 5e, they just don't need it. The problem is there's a disconnect, and that is that players always want to have magic items generally, and the game of 5e, if you're playing this, is not going to need it. But if you're playing older versions of D&D, or you're playing a completely different version, the end result may be very different. The power of a magic item from greatest to lowest in terms of the effect it will have on your game is this way. Any kind of magic item that gives you the ability to be mobile or mobility in some way. The ability to travel is very important, whether that's by using a ship, using a spell, teleportation, things like that. This is probably the strongest magical effect you can give them. The next one is something that grants them extra magical power. So this is like building on what they already have if they have magic of some kind. The next one would be specific magical effects. So it might be such a thing as a magic wand which fires a magic dart. It has a certain number of charges on it, and after those charges are expended, it's done. That would be a specific magical effect. Maybe you can create a flaming ball that explodes from a wand or a staff. Those are specific magical effects. The next one, surprisingly, is actually martial combat benefits to your magic items and magic weapons and armor. Yet, it is the martial combat magic items that generally give you the most amount of problems because they are the ones that most game masters will instill into their game first. They usually don't look at the other options, so they don't need to worry too much about the fact that somebody can suddenly teleport from one side of the world to the other, or they are granted additional magical powers. Now, the lowest level of magical effect, and the one that will probably give you the least number of problems, is actually miscellaneous utility function. And very, very simple miscellaneous utility function is quite useful. You'll also find that because of the nature of how games are run and sort of the expectations of players and how game masters have sort of been trained by video games, past editions of role-playing games, things like magic weapons, magic armor, and combat-focused items will generally generate the most issues. This is because, as I said, they are often made first, so it's not wise as a starting point for a game master. So you never start with this. My suggestion to you is start with the small miscellaneous utility stuff, and then once you've got a few of those under your belt and you kind of feel comfortable, then start moving into your magic weapons and magic armor. Utility magic items are the best to create for a player's character is they have the least effect on the game and usually don't affect combat encounters or their design in any way whatsoever. So if you're ever worried about making a magic item, that's a good place to start, as I said. Common magic items, these are the lowest level, power level. Again, a really good point to start at, rather than starting with something that's very powerful or in the mid-range. Because just because a magic item has been statted out a particular way or written up a particular way does not mean that you can't change it because it's your own homebrew creation. It's much easier to go from a magic item that is low in power and increase the power, rather than make a magic item that you find is too powerful for your game and actually you don't want to have there, and have to try to either take it away or diminish its power, because players don't like that sort of thing. Now, I'm not suggesting that you shouldn't do things that your players don't like, because in fact you probably will have to at some point, but it's the path of least resistance. Start with the minimal power stuff and work your way up. Now, the power of a magic item can be adjusted over time, as I suggested. So start with low scarcity or rarity and low power, and this will assist in sort of putting overpowered magic items into your game. And then we can have a staggered level approach to this, and which is what I'm going to cover today. Is with magic weapons in particular, we can give them more power to their magic weapons as the character grows in level and power themselves. So just through character advancement, we're going to use that to our advantage to give us an idea of what we're going to do for the future. Okay, so that gives you an idea of balancing stuff. Inspiration for magic items. Where do you get your inspiration from? Well, you can get it from pretty much anywhere, but I'm going to suggest that you get it from the Harry Potter movies and books, because they've got great examples of very simple magic items that do all sorts of fun effects. Novels that have to do with fantasy, science fiction, that include any kind of magic item, are really good. They give you lots of different ideas. You don't have to use them exactly the same way. You can change them. There's also a lot of historical magic items from mythology and legend or folklore that you can port over to your game. And then, of course, you can borrow and steal from computer games, video games. Any kind of magic item from those games might be useful in your game as well. Now, common and simple magic items from other role-playing games are a good source of items to start with. So you can use them as sort of like a template. So whatever role-playing game you're playing with, look for the really simple common ones and try to duplicate their effects or something like it. That's a really good starting point. If you're playing Dungeons & Dragons 5e, Xanathar's Guide to Everything has examples of common utility magic items. They have odd effects, and you'll find them on page 135 to 140. So if you're playing 5e, it's probably one of the best examples of where you want to start. And not only that, it gives you a lot of ideas. It sort of opens up the brain to not the same sort of stuff you normally get published in a book. Okay, so what can we make into a magic item? So an antique, some sort of antique, an heirloom of some kind, trinkets that aren't magical. So maybe they find trinkets. An heirloom and antique may not be magical, but you can give it magical properties. So selecting something that might be important to the player and then turning it into a magical item over time could well be something you could look at. I think one of the best examples of trying to come up with really good ideas that are a little bit outside of the box, and that is the trinkets in the Player's Handbook for 5e. It has huge potential. And then I have to say that older versions of Dungeons & Dragons and other role-playing games have a vast array of magic items that you can port over and adjust for your own purposes. So consider them one of your options. Okay, the process of making a magic item. What does it look like? Well, first off, give a magic item an interesting and obvious name. It's probably best if it helps. The name tells part of the story that usually does a lot of the work for you. Whether it's through the object, the name will indicate the story through the object or indicate the function of the magic item. So obviously if you have a magic wand, the word wand would be useful because it gives you an indication of its function, but then you've got to add something else to it to tell part of the story in terms of naming it. Create a magical effect that has a benefit or a detrimental effect. They don't always have to give you good benefits. They may actually give you negatives. Special magic weapon abilities are listed in the Game Mastery Guide for Pathfinder, First Ed Edition. It is on page 123. So if you're looking for stuff for your Pathfinder games, you will find it there. There's a nice useful table. And then minor and major beneficial properties are listed in the Dungeon Master Guide for Dungeons & Dragons 5e on page 219. And then minor and major detrimental properties are listed in the Dungeon Master Guide for 5e on page 220 to 221. You'll also find minor properties and quirks are listed on page 143 of the Dungeon Master Guide for 5e. Now, I could keep listing off different page numbers and different books you could look at, but what I will also say is don't forget Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. If you're playing Dungeons & Dragons or another role-playing game, look, one of the very first things that they did, particularly in the early part of the game, is they came up with many tables. There's tables and charts till the cows go home. So you will find that First Ed Edition and Second Ed Edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons usually has a table of magic item properties. And you can just go through those, pick the ones that you want. And if people want me to talk more about them in the future, I am definitely open to doing that. I can even show you those tables. What is the history or intent of the magic item? Something to consider. You can find a bunch of ideas on this on page 142 of the Dungeon Master Guide for 5e. But you don't need that table. You can probably come up with the intent and history of your magic item as long as the magic item is connected to a character. And what I mean is it connected to not so much a player character, but maybe a non-player character, an NPC. Determine the power level of your magic item. So in Dungeons & Dragons 5e, they have a rarity table on page 285 of the DMG, or Dungeon Master Guide. But like you decide on what sort of power level. Is it low power? Is it medium power? High power? Is this a legendary item? Is it an artifact? Select the appropriate scarcity and rarity for your magic item. This certainly helps define power. And then the bond required with the magic item between the wielder and user of that magic item. What sort of bond is required? Are you using attunement, say from Dungeons & Dragons 5e? This will stop your player characters stacking too many powerful items all at once or things. So magic bonds or attunement certainly is best assigned to magic items that are permanent and don't run out of a magical effect. So if you have like a magic weapon or magic armor, you probably want to have attunement or some sort of magic bond being required so that they can't have too many of them, or they have to make sure that they are bonded with it so they can't just cycle through things very quickly. Does the magic item have charges? In other words, and when it comes to charges, do they need to recharge whatever the magic item is at some point? Or does the magic item recharge itself? Modern D&D 5e has a lot of recharging itself, whereas if you look at older versions of Dungeons & Dragons, going back to Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 3.5, even in some respects 4e, but not so much so, Pathfinder, you'll find that a lot of the magic items require you to actually do something or take it somewhere to get recharged. Is the magic item got a permanent effect that always is in use, or are you dealing with a single-use item which is usually considered or classified as a consumable item, such as a potion of healing or a potion of invisibility or something like that? So that is your process of making a magic item. But whenever I do one of these things, I always like to give out some miscellaneous recommendations just to help you along. Your miscellaneous recommendations is expect to make mistakes with your magic item creation. It's all right. It's fine, okay? It's not actually unreasonable that you will make mistakes when you're homebrewing your own stuff. Everybody does. Everybody does. It's fine to take existing magic items and just reskin the item in some way. Okay, you can take a magic missile wand and just call it a magic bean wand if you really wanted to. Or maybe instead of firing magic jelly beans, it's going to fire acorns. Who knows? Maybe you've decided it's going to be a twig that's sort of like a wand, but it fires acorns, and only a druid can wield this particular wand. There is no mathematical formula to magic item creation. There's a process, but there's no mathematical formula in any role-playing game, really, that will avoid players finding a way to exploit them. Because players are smart, they will figure it out. There are more of them than at the table than there are of the game masters. There's only one game master or dungeon master at the table, and as a result of that, with 4 or 5 players at your table, you're probably going to find they will figure stuff out amongst themselves that you were not planning for your magic item. So when it happens, just put it down to, well, they did something. Now, whether that ends your campaign or not is really going to be up to you. Okay, so that is all the things that I really wanted to say today about magic items and magic items that you can use in your game that you can make yourself. I want to say a big thank you to my patrons who support me on Patreon, and you will find all the stuff that I do here will be winding up going there. I also want to say a big, huge thank you to World Anvil for sponsoring, of all things, a live stream that is 2 hours long. It's a big deal when a sponsor agrees to doing something like that. And you'll find their details down in the description if you want to organize your stuff online rather than use an old folder. And I want to thank everybody who's been watching the live stream and the video. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Okay, I'm not gone. What we will do is we will just have a quick drink and then we'll flick back over to my face. Now, so this is a work day. So we've got plenty of time to do quite a lot. So I'm expecting we'll get more than enough done. Let's just see where we're at right now. And just going back to the live chat. Is it coming back to my face? Okay, so for a very, very long time, I've been running this program for a while now. This is number 6. And out of those 6 times we've prepared and made magic items on this channel, I have only ever done common magic items, as a lot of you know. I mean, well, that's not true. We have made some. There's been the occasional very powerful magic item that we've made, okay? But here's the thing. One of these that I ran was just setting up the new program. So now we're going to talk about building a magic weapon if you really want to. So I'm going to have a look at the poll and we'll go with this. Now what I'm going to say is the options that I put forward to you, don't feel like you're going to miss out, because this rolls around in 2 months, people. This program rolls around every 2 months. So that means even though I might have put down, say, for example, in the poll it says here, what do you want to make today? And 100 magic item properties is very high on people's radar, obviously. Okay? And I know why. Because it gives you the most amount of flexibility with making your own stuff. So that's fine. I'm good with that. But don't feel like we won't actually make a magic weapon. Because we can make a magic weapon. And I'm actually going to describe to you very quickly how I go about making magic weapons. All right? And then any magic weapon, I think, so 9% wanted a magic weapon. Any magic item, 27%, undecided 27. That's fine. So there's quite a bit of a split going on here. But we're going to do all of this anyway. There's going to be a day we're going to sit down and we're just going to make magic items. But one of the easiest ways to make magic items is if you have a 100 different magic item properties. Now, would that not be a lot more useful to you? There's a reason why I put it here. Okay? So do not feel like you're going to lose out. You're never not going to lose out because the program will never stop. It just keeps going. That's my intention. Okay, let's have a look at chat. Hello, Matt. How are you? How are you doing? Jack. How are you going, Jack Penny? Balance is always my issue. My metric is trial and error, and unfortunately, that's everybody's trial and error metric. Is trial and error is the way to go. There is no other way to deal with it. And the trick is trial and error and start small, start with low power stuff. But I think it would be useful to actually give you an idea of how I go about making magic weapons, particularly for 5e, since a lot of you are probably still playing that, but it would still apply to other versions of Dungeons and Dragons or other games such as Pathfinder. The same sort of layout. I won't be putting mechanics into what I show you. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. Trial and error, laugh, trial and error, cry in my closet, trial and error. Hey, that one works. Yes, Jack, that's very much the process. Yeah, I have the same problems. Trust me. Hello, Noroak. How are you doing? So Noroak is a patron, supports me on Patreon. Thank you. Pale Rider's here. Hello. How are you doing, Pale Rider? Rosa Rosa Lind. Interesting stuff. Got to get to bed, but I'll watch the rest tomorrow. Well, Rosa, if you've already gone, you will have a huge list of magic item properties, because I'm going to show you something too before we go too far. It'll probably change people's view of a lot of things. How's it going, Overboard? Overboard is also a patron and a moderator, has a YouTube channel that deals with miniatures and terrain and does reviews. Yeah, well, you didn't really miss it. It's not like I don't hide my live streams anymore. They stay there. No matter what, I'll leaving them up. Magic item, hat of cooling for Fred. Yes, I need a hat of cooling for sure. A ring of refrigeration. Yeah, that would be helpful. Today's not too bad in terms of heat. Spirit Wolf, how are you doing, Spirit Wolf? Hello. Now, I think everybody's just saying hi to each other. 26 properties into my magic item property table, so this will be easy. Yes, so I'm aware, Noroak, that you've been working on your 65 properties, but you didn't want to just have 65 properties. And as you know on Discord, so I have a Discord. You may not be aware of it, but I do have a Discord. And I know Noroak has been putting stuff together on that Discord group, trying to get his table up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my phone. I'm going to come back to this, and I'm going to show you inside a couple of very old books, a couple of things you might be surprised by. This is why I had suggested what I had suggested. So let's see if I can find that screen right now. So these books here, not this one. This one's all right, but these two books here. Oh my, are you in for a surprise in terms of what's in these things? I already knew that there were going to be a lot of things we could use here, but today when I had a good hard look at what was there, yep, as I suspected, exactly what you want. Right, I'll grab my phone. So let me just open up this just quickly. I'll move these books out of the way. Now, I know this kind of cuts into the time that we spend creating stuff, but I think that this is worth your while to see. So this is the Pathfinder Game Mastery book. Now, in here, we have on page 120 magic item special, so it's a magic armor special abilities. So they've listed a few things. The problem is they are very specific to Pathfinder, so the one or two words that they give you doesn't really give you enough information to figure out what's going on. They also have magic shield special abilities that you can add as well. If we keep flicking our way through here, you'll find also that they've covered weapons. So magic melee weapon special properties are here, and magic ranged weapon special abilities are here. So these single words. So you'd have to look up all of that stuff to find out what it is. But that's not what we want today in terms of a table of magic item properties. Whatever we put together must communicate enough information that you don't need to go and look for another book or look somewhere else. It needs to be in the one place. So I wanted to show you this so you knew what I had tucked up my sleeve. And that's one of them. The next one, I'm going to show you not the best one, but I'm going to show you one that's it's not too bad. It's not too bad. So this is Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, Dungeon Master Guide, and we're looking at the different magic item special properties that they can have. Now the tables are not huge. A lot of the tables you might even notice seem very similar to a modern Dungeon Master Guide, in fact. So that's what we get. You can actually have a magic weapon that speaks a language, people. You could actually do this. So there's not a huge amount here. I would say that's it. That's all I could find. And this is Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, Dungeon Master Guide. This is the second edition book. Okay? So I've got this when I need it. It's there. So we can, if you get stuck, I've got stuff to put in. The book that you might be much more surprised by is the older book. This is Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, first edition. Now, yes, I know the print is tiny and you can't see anything. Okay. But the number of things that they have put here in terms of minor powers, major powers, minor sort of malevolent effects, major malevolent effects or negative effects, primary powers, like there's a lot of stuff here. Okay, side effects. So the whole process of filling out a table and doing that today is very doable because, I hate to say it, but Advanced Dungeons and Dragons first ed edition is the shit. It's got what you need. And I think we will be fine with what we need to put together. So I'm just going to put that little place marker in there, just so that you knew that I hadn't done no research on this topic. I have done some research on it. And the only reason that I'm able to do this is because of a number of the subscribers and patrons sending me these books. If they hadn't have sent these books to me, I probably would not have necessarily had them readily accessible to me. So a big thank you to Dan, who is a patron, and also to Nacho Man. Now, if you're playing something like 5e, you will be aware there's two tables that are scattered. And this is really all you get. That's it. You'd be lucky if you get 20 different things that might be useful to you. That's it. There's very much. There's hardly anything here. And the problem is, I think Wizards of the Coast runs into this problem, although they give you a lot more description about how they work. They run into the problem of making things for you that require you to go and buy more books because they never put enough in the first book. And that's quite deliberate on their part, right? Let's get real. It's deliberate. We know. You know it. I know it. Everybody else knows it. And unfortunately, that's no use to you if you have to get things done. So yes, let's just say it's time to make up our own stuff. So let's do that, shall we? I'm just going to just rock on over and get my page set up. Yeah, I suppose you could say, if you look at it in a particular way, you could say that I continually like throwing shade on Wizards of the Coast. I'll agree. I kind of been doing a lot of that recently. Yeah, I would say I've definitely been throwing a lot of shade on them recently. Do you know? Did it seem obvious? Do they air armor? Do they air armor? Oh my gosh. Okay, let me just have a look at what we've got here. I'm just make sure I catch up with the chat before I try to go to work. Well, I'm already what? You're already... No, we've got that bit. I've been procrastinating a little, but it's almost done. Well, don't worry. You're going to be all right today. You can finish it off. It's full of good stuff. Yes, I believe. I honestly think somebody had mentioned this, and I was like, is it actually, how good is it? Because I didn't actually have first edition. I never looked at that book. I only had the second edition book, and I knew what it had in it. It wasn't that great. Let's make a wand of cicatus, cast swarms of cicadas. And a 40-foot cone. Unsure on damage. Well, we don't have to stipulate damage, do we? But they make so much noise the enemy is confused and can't concentrate on anything but these bugs. Very, very nice. I love it. You guys want to get started. I can see right now you're itching. The longer I leave this, Spirit Wolf is laughing. A one hit. One hit points per round per 1d8. Oh, good lord! You guys really want to put stuff in like that? You really want to put mechanics in that way? Is that what we're looking at? Fred, did I give you an idea? Cicadas can speak. Yeah. Well, look, your magic item can speak if you want to. They only know swear words. Oh, lovely. Mario style. Time to make some stuff. Okay, Jack. Yes, that's right. Let's get down to it. Let's get you into the gist of things. So first of all, I will just take you over here and Beck me. Yes. Well, look. I know a few people who love Beck me, and my current home group are insisting that whatever I do, it needs to be Beck me at some point. So we're going to start 2 documents. I'll make this a bit bigger so you can see it. And I will make sure that my head is not in the way, because it probably is right now once we do this. There. If the text is not large enough, people just let me know. I can make myself smaller, because it's not that important in seeing me. Do you know what I mean? I'm not the most important aspect of it. So let's do this. Hashtag magic weapons. And I call it, do I do hashtag 1? We may wind up coming back to this. So one of your first problems with a magic weapon, I want somebody in chat to decide on some sort of magic weapon we're going to make. I'm going to do this very quickly, people, because we're going to do the 100 different properties. We might not get it done today, but we'll finish it off in 2 months when we come back to this topic. So I'm going to make a magic weapon with you today. So you're going to tell me what it is. Is it a sword? Is it a hammer? Is it a club? I don't know. What is it? You tell me, and I will show you how I would pull it apart. Okay? If you do that, I will do the rest of it. Make life easy for you. Here we go. One of the first things to remember when you're doing this is you must always give your magic weapon a name. The one thing that makes players attracted to magic items, like a moth to a flame, is you got to give it a name. And you got to give it a cool name. So somebody said saber, a ballista bow. A ballista bow? How the hell do you make a ballista? Is a ballista bow? A dart, a jeweled snail flail. I'm down for the saber. Are you? You're down for the saber? Well, okay, let's do a saber. So we'll make a saber, but I want you to give it a name. So hashtag, what is the saber's name? Okay. So if we get to we've got no more than 20 minutes we'll spend on this, and then we're moving on. So you've got to give it a name. Bernard. Shuriken. Okay, so I don't think that Bernard, the saber, is going to work very well. It's a saber. So we want a name for this. And I'll go here. I go bold. And I'm going to work less on the history, although history is nice. And the power level depends on the level, on the character level, Okay, so depending on your character level is what sort of effect it will have. Now rarity, again, depends on the character level. I know what you're starting to see here is like, okay, so you're talking about an evolving magic weapon. Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Attunement, absolutely. If you're going to give them something like this, you always want to give them some sort of bond they must form with it. In terms of its single-use permanent, well, it's going to be permanent. It's a magic saber, right? Sagen Saber, the Sagen Saber. Yeah, okay. Chaos Render, Spirit Saber, Shade Claw. Okay, interesting. So a couple of different names here. So what we'll do is I'll take all your names that you've got here and I'll just make a list of it. So let's go bold, underline. And I'll put all those names down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it apart and show you what I would do with this. Now, before I do that, I want you to think about the most common thing that people like or you like putting into a magic weapon. I want you to concentrate on that thing. Okay? So, the Sanjin, Sahugin Saber. I kind of like the alliteration there. Sahugin Saber. Yep, okay, that's good. And we'll give it this as a number. Number it. Okay. What else do we have here? We had Chaos Render. Chaos Rend. You've got here the Spirit Saber. Look, whichever name you like is the one you use. Chaos Rend. There we go. That's better. Okay, so Chaos Rend, the Shade Claw. Okay, so this is what I'm going to put in here. What sort of magical effect do you give your magic weapons? You've probably already done this before, right? So let's ask that question now. I can see that somebody's already starting to put things in like flight. Flight and invisibility are really strong as effects. So flight, invisibility, now, we're talking about a magic weapon that's a saber, so think in terms of the magic saber, okay? Try not to think about other things. We're not making a magic cloak. Okay, so Shade Claw, what was the other name we got here? Shade Claw, and then Spirit Severer. Okay. Spirit Severer. Okay. Spirit Slicer. God, there's a lot of them. Spirit Slicer. Last name, I think, here. And then we got Sahagan as in blood. Oh, I see what you're saying. All right, okay. Cool. Right, so there's the names. You pick whatever name you like. So almost immediately, as soon as somebody says something like flight and invisibility, I know that those are things that I won't be putting in. I hate to say it, but you probably won't be giving them early on. It's just not going to happen. Invisibility. It's too much. Now, depending on how many levels you have with your characters, okay, somebody's written down Black Flame. Interesting. Black Flame. I'll write it in. Black Flame. Cool idea. Forever Sharp. Okay. Forever Sharp. It's very common for magic items to have this. It's a good feature to give a weapon to. Silence. Silence would be good in a live stream. That way, if I'm silent, you can't hear me. I love the effect that damage the target and heals the wielder. Ah, I see. Yes. Yes. It's a life drinker. It's kind of like a life drinker effect. I know what you're talking about. Okay, so you've given me a few different ideas here. So depending on how many levels, if your game characters only go from level 1 to 10, then you will arrange this differently. If your game and advancement for your characters goes from level 1 to 20, you've got 20 levels to spread it across. And because I know 5e more, because it's just what I've been playing recently and I still play, sort of, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to put 5e mechanics into this. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the concept of a character that goes from level 1 to 20. Okay, that's what we're going to start with. So here we go. So magical effects level. This magical saber has a number of different magical effects depending on the wielder's character level and how long they retain the weapon retain a bond with the weapon. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. So this is your attunement. For those of you who are doing Dungeons and Dragons 5e, okay, that would be attunement. So in other words, the longer they have it, the more powerful it becomes. So we can start slow and work up from there. Okay, that's our first premise for our magical effect. So level 1 to 5. I'm going to tell you right now, I do not advise people in 5e to give out magic weapons between level 1 and 5. At level 5 it's fine, but level 1 it's probably a bad idea. It's probably way too soon. That's beside the point. The point here is to show you how it can be done, right? Okay. I'm not trying to give you advice on when to do it. I'm just trying to give you advice on how to do it. Paste. And we're going to have 4 tiers, 6 to 10. Now, if you want to make a really complicated magic weapon, you can have advancement happen more often, but then of course the blowback is you wind up with a more powerful item when they finally get to level 20. Yep. If your characters will ever get to level 20, if you're really only ever playing from level 1 to 10, then you're going to stagger this and do this at like every 2 or 3 levels. Does that make sense? Okay. Deals an additional D6 necrotic damage to a target and heals the wielder the same amount. Yeah, so I'm not going to worry about how much damage it does. Grease or glue. Grease or glue. Okay, grease or glue. Or glue. Okay, grease fire web. Ant raid siren. An ant raid shrink. Interesting. Warns wielder if a type of creature is nearby. A very common Pale Rider. Okay. Warns if X type of creature is nearby. A specific type of creatures nearby. So this is the glowing sword. This is Sting from Lord of the Rings. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, so let me do this fairly quickly. First off, just make it a magic weapon. It's magical. One of the biggest aspects of having a magic weapon is if you've got a magic weapon over a standard mundane weapon, it gets through a lot of the problems because a lot of, not so much a lot of, but some things out there, particularly around level 5 and 6 in the mid-range, they start having things that are like damage immunity. You can't actually damage them or injure them in some way. These monsters can't be harmed unless you have a magic weapon. If you have a mundane weapon, you will never be effective against it. Which in the older versions of the games that we played, the tank would just stand there and all they would do is take total defense while all the magic users behind them would be firing spells at the creature to whittle them down while the fighter tried to stay up for as long as they possibly could and tank. So that was how it used to work. And you can still do it that way. There's nothing wrong with that. But just making it magical. I don't mean a +1 or a +2 or a +3. I just make it magical. Magical damage. Rather than mundane. Now you can see that's such a small effect, but it actually has quite a strong outcome. It's actually still, it's like if you're going to fight a werewolf, you want to have a silvered sword. Or a silvered saber in this case. You want it to be silvered, because if it's not silvered, you're not going to get nowhere. It's just not going to die. So make it magical, does magical damage. It doesn't have to do more damage. It doesn't have to have a plus. It just needs to do something that isn't mundane in damage. Okay, magical damage. That's what you want. Start there. Okay, now at this point here, we can start playing around, and this is where you can add a numerical value to attack rolls and damage. Example, +1, +2, or +3. I would suggest start with +1. You don't need to be too silly about this. You do not need to give them a huge benefit in terms of their ability to hit a target and do damage. It just needs to be something, okay? Remember, we can change a lot of this stuff. Now, you gave me a whole lot of special features and abilities. So what I want to do is I want to kind of bundle them in to where they kind of work well. Does that make sense? Since you gave me these things to play with. While in dim or dark light, you can teleport. So teleportation. Now remember, teleportation is one of those things that's really, really powerful. Teleportation. I'm not going to specify what it is, but let's just say teleportation. Okay. What else was there? While in dim light or darkness, you can teleport. Weapon has a displacer effect. Okay. Displacement. So that would fall under a very strong effect. Displacement. Displacement. Wand of Wonders effects. Okay. Okay, so you're kind of talking about resurrection, soul, absorption. Okay. Yep. Okay, so that's fine. Now let's go here. Let's take one of the things that would probably go into 11, 15, 16, and 20. Well, I can tell you right now, given these different effects and the things that I was saying before, I would take something like the ability to teleport. If you're going to let them teleport with your magical weapon, stick it here. Okay? This is where they need it. You don't want to give it to them anywhere else because this is where they really need it. That kind of thing is where you want to have it. Alright? That's where it should be. It belongs there. Alright, let me just separate these a little bit so that you don't get too confused about where things are. And next, 11 to 15. 11 to 15 sort of suggests a bit more. There's a bit more going on. You're obviously not quite a god yet, but you're getting there. So, and I would say when we go for this one, where is it that I want to place this? No, yes. Silence. So something like a silence effect, we'll cut this, would go here. Because you're really going to affect the ability for magic to work. That's a silence spell, basically, right? So that's where that kind of works best. Now, you could have one effect over a range, or you could have multiple effects that are gained within that range. So I'm going to add a few other things in here. So not just these, but I'm going to take some of these and I'm going to plop them where they kind of belong. Okay, so resurrection and soul absorption, cut those. They really belong here, in the top end of your character progression. These are where you would put them, because they make sense. You're virtually near a god. So resurrection and soul absorption, those are the things you would put in sort of your top end 16 to 20 character levels. Yeah. Displacement. Displacement is a huge effect, and this here, cut this. This can work here fine. That's probably where it belongs, in the 11 to 15 range. Flight, invisibility. Now the thing about flight is its mobility, and its mobility not quite as good as something like teleportation, or gates or plane shifting. And invisibility is probably fine. It's going to cut here. The effect to be invisible for a long period of time probably belongs over here. Now when I put these things in here, I'm not suggesting that when they use the sword that they have greater invisibility. It might be minor invisibility. Okay? They make an attack, they become visible, but while they have the sword, they are invisible. So it's kind of like having the spell, but the difference being that you essentially, once you make your attack, you will now be visible. So there's going to be the upper hand. You don't necessarily have to put a restriction on how much you can use it, but yeah, flight. More of that sort of thing. So cut here. That kind of really belongs, because combined flight with invisibility is a big deal. Like you're almost untouchable now. Like how would they find you to attack you? So you're probably going to be putting it near the top here. I would say flight. Even though something like the fly spell can be gained at lower levels, I would say flight is probably better to live there. Okay, as an ability. Flame blade. You're not necessarily doing more damage, but the damage you do has been modified and changed in some way. So flame blade works quite nicely here in this range. So you cause flame damage, not slashing damage or piercing damage. Okay? Forever sharp. Forever sharp is fine anywhere. So cut it. You can put this at the very beginning here, and you will probably find that it's not an issue for you at all. Something like life drinker. Actually, let's go with shrink. Shrink, cut this. Shrink out of that range. When you think about all the other things that you can do, how important and useful is being able to shrink? It's pretty important. It probably goes near the top, but not all the way at the top. paste. Okay. Warns of a specific type of creature nearby. Here, cut this. We put this one here. That works fine in your range between 6 and 10. Okay. Something like web. So you're now using it as battle control. So cut. Web actually works fine here as well. And I probably should say additional. Let's do this. This is I'm gonna amend this just a little bit. I should be finished by now, and I haven't. So just let me just do this quickly. Or 2. This is probably a +1 at this point in your character advancement. And then the last one, paste. It's fine, 1, 2, or 3 at this point. Okay, so let's take the last of your abilities. So grease and glue, cut. So the ability to grease and glue, stick it here. It's sort of, you're doing something similar to web. It's control. Life drinker. So regaining hit points. Regaining hit points is a big deal. Whether you realize it or not, the amount of damage you do and then being able to restore it to yourself, I'd stick it near the top here. You're heading towards being a god. I don't necessarily say that it needs to be in the 16 to 20, but I would say this is probably where you want to be. So do people get an idea? So you don't have to use all of these different features at these levels. And you can stagger these things so that each time they go up within that range, there's a different effect. Remember, every time you give them a new effect, the character becomes more versatile and more powerful because of that weapon. This is how you get people to not throw their special weapons away and pick up the new thing they found because it has a +2 on it rather than a +1. This is how I did it in my own games. Like literally, if you do that sort of thing and you do it that way, it makes a huge difference. Somebody's written down immunity to elements and effects. Spirit Wolf, immunity would be going in the top end, in the 16 to 20. Because giving somebody damage immunity or some sort of energy immunity is obviously really powerful. I'm not saying you shouldn't give it to them, but you want to put it near the top end. And you don't want it to be immunity to all damage. That would be a bad idea. Okay, that's too much versatility. All right, so does that give you an idea of how to go about building your magic weapons? Give it a name that's cool, give it some magical effects, and give them a staggered sort of way of operating within the game over the different levels. Like that's how I build my homebrew magic items. Honestly, people, that's how I do it. It works really well, and it gives me time to think about too if I made a mistake, and be careful about what I give them in the future. Because if I overtax it a little bit, then I can just hold off on the next magical effect. Because by the time you get to level 16 and 20, you really won't care too much about flight, shrinking, displacement, silence, +1 and +2, because you've probably got a +3 if you've got a +3 weapon. Not when you're dealing with teleportation, resurrection, and soul absorption. Okay, so yeah, honestly that's the way to do it. And top of the hour, I need to go and take a break. So let me just shuffle back to my face. I will go take a break, and then we'll start doing what I promised we would do, was make 100 different magic item properties. So where are we? Let's just see the chat, see if I can catch up on this. Saber of smashing. You're still throwing out names there. Fires boiling water bolts. Protection from missiles. Right. You guys are trying to throw out a lot of other effects here, and I could go over all of them, but I think you get the gist of what you want to do with your magic weapon, right? Is stagger it across the levels, make it more powerful, don't give it all of its stuff all at once. I always cringe when I see legendary magic items and artifacts, And the problem is they're not staggered. When you pick it up, it does everything. Like it doesn't even get a chance to get to know you. They just get the whole lot, which is, I mean, players love that, but you're probably doing too much. Just take your time a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to be back in a second, and we'll be doing, let me just do this, hashtag, we are making 100 different magical properties. Table. Next. What are your ideas? You've already presented a whole bunch of ideas, by the way, people, so don't feel like you need to repeat them if you don't want to. There we go. This is what we're doing when I get back. I'm going to take a short break, 5 minutes or less, and then it's back into it. Oh, this is going to be exciting. I can see now. We're going to have a lot of fun. All right, so let's bring myself back into the picture. What are people saying here? Let me just catch up with chat and then we'll get started. Zumara 02992. As far as I have gotten mileage out of the magic items, I try to both tier them, tie them to tiers of play, and give these items the ability to give the players weaker skills from other subclasses across their tiers. So, I mean, you can do that. I always try to avoid giving something that will duplicate something that another class does, because then it's like multi-classing, where somebody just wants to just port concepts that are part of another class over to their game. And I do multi-class, but I feel like it robs those character classes by doing that. So I try to look for something that doesn't exist within those classes. but it's not always like possible, you know. Purple blade, that says, no, I'm not saying that. No, no, no. I also use the spells in 5e as a basis for the powers. Yes, you can. What I would... Yeah, so first of all, I don't like giving magic items properties that are just go check out the spell. Do you know what I mean? It's not quite as much fun. Which is exactly it. Yes, the ability to actually fly would certainly do that. All right. Okay. All right. So let's get into the work page. Back to the work page, and let's get started. So this is what I named it, but I'm actually going to change the name. Where is it? Here. Please let me know if I need to make this bigger. If it's too small, what I'm writing up here, you need to let me know. Because I could probably... can I expand it more? It's 200 there. I think that's the limit on that one. Can I make it bigger? I can. That's quite a lot larger. I just need to make sure the transition here is going to work. Yeah, let's make the text significantly bigger than it was before. How's that look? My head's not in the way. You should be able to see everything clearly. Yeah. Now, 100 magic item properties. Okay, so I'm going to push this down. And I probably need to make sure I put everything into alphabetical order as I do this. 100 magic item. And that is... I get in river hat, it's getting too hot. I think I'm going to open the door as well. It's actually getting warm in here. I'm getting a headache. Okay, so yeah, you're going to hear probably, I think you might be able to hear like is that a tractor or a lawnmower or something like that? A lot of cicadas. Yeah, okay, so you know I'm getting comfortable, I'm ready to do this. No, wrong one. So I'm going to start off with the most useless book and work my way towards the better books. So let's start off with the most useless book, which is the 5e book. How's that sound? Now, some people already gave me some different potential abilities that we can include in here. So, where is it? No. Forever sharp. I'll just take that for now. What am I doing here? Undo that. I just want to copy it. I don't want to cut it. Copy it. I think that's a reasonable addition. Let's make that a possibility. Forever sharp. I don't know what else to sort of call it right now. We'll get to there. Minor invisibility. So let's do all of this. So copy, paste. So right now I'm probably going to change some of this stuff, people. It's not going to look quite like this. It's probably not going to just be those one words. It's going to get expanded. I'm not going to leave it like that. Paste, warns the grease. Okay, that one there. cut. It's G, so it'll be grease and glue. Okay, so we're now on our way. Invisibility to undead. Okay. Never give a magic item greater invisibility where you can attack and still be invisible. Really bad idea. Okay. If you want to ensure that they can never die, that'll do it. Invisible to undead. It's a bit of a question mark on that one though. Okay, but it's there. So we've got 7 ideas already. Let's go down. We'll take what you've already given me. Copy. You may have noticed that I haven't touched the add a numerical value to the attack roll and damage roll. That's not a property. You don't need that. Okay, you can just forget about that completely. That's easy to do. That's not the hard stuff. It's all of this stuff that's the hard stuff. Flight, shrink. So silence. So cut, and that would go about here. Displacement, which we'll come back to. Cut. It's going to be about there. Paste. Flight. Flight or fly. Should be about here. Shrinking them. Cut. H-I. No, wrong one. Shrink. Life drinker. So cut and L-L-L. H-I-L. H-I-L. Paste. So I got them. I got that. These are all things that are perfectly fine. We can use these in a magic item, not a problem. We'll put them on the list. So soul absorption, terrifying as a concept. Paste it right there. Resurrection. Cut. R. Now the cool thing about resurrection is you give that to your enemy, so when they fall in battle, they resurrect. Maybe not straight away, maybe not straight where they were, but yeah. Talk about a recurring villain. See, these abilities and so forth for magic items can be magic items that are held by the enemy, not necessarily by the players. Camouflage. Pale Rider's got camouflage. Sulmara. Okay, so where are we? I think we're on track. We've got all your stuff that you sent me before. So I need to just make sure I catch up on chat. What do we got here? Camouflage would be C. Camouflage, yes, it would. Camouflage. All right, so I'll have to type all these things out later. Let's just get stuff down, eh? What's that, Sulmara? A magic axe that turns lopped off parts to wood. Transform. Transform to a new substance, like stone, metal, wood, what else? No, not bone. Stone, metal, wood. What else would be another thing you could transform something if you'd hit it with? Because transforming to a new substance is, yeah. I'm just trying to think now. There's bound to be something else I've missed. Haste. Haste, I'm just going to put down as quick. Q for quick. Quit. Quick. Quick. The wielder moves. The user moves faster. Okay, we'll come back to that. The item looks ominous to those that see it. Okay, so we're talking about illusions. Illusions. Creates an illusion. I'm not sure that was necessarily what you were after, but I'm putting it down like that for now. For missile type weapons, rust monster effect, power is lost after a successful hit on the metal. I'm not too sure what you mean, but we can put rust in. Rust. You hit something and it rusts. Would be really good if you get a hit like an iron golem and it would rust with this weapon, if you're using a weapon or a staff or something like that. So I'll put rust for now. Come back to rust. I would agree if it were a mask of helm or horrors. I see. Frighten. 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 Got it. What else we got here? Heal. Cool, blimey. There's a lot going on here. I'm going to be working hard to... You guys really want this done fast, don't you? HI. Heal. Weapon and sheath are invisible when not in use and strapped to a living being. Very specific. Okay. M. I think when we got invisibility there, and how you use it is really up to you, but I will come back to that. Okay, so let's see. Do I want to do that? M. Metamorphosis. The magic item can take on different forms. So the reason I'm putting this in here is years ago I made a magic weapon that was a sword, and then you could turn it into a bow. So you didn't have to have a magic bow and a magic sword. You just had to have this one weapon, and it would literally, you would activate it. So when you wanted to make long ranged attacks, you'd have a long bow, and when you wanted to make melee attacks, you would have a sword. And that's how Metamorphosis was a great way of doing that. So it changes its own form. It's actually in the 5e DMG anyway. Like a broom or something. Yeah. So here's another example. So Percy Jackson, his sword is a pen. So the pen is mightier than the sword. He presses on the pen, it becomes a sword. So in this case, it's a play on that concept of the pen is mightier than the sword, because the sword, the pen is the sword. Do you know what I mean? Someone is messing with that a little bit. Spider. Now somebody, I don't want to say spider climb. Somebody actually had mentioned a different word we can use. So it's not spider climb, it's something else, but we'll come back to this. A lot of these are kind of going to be easily ported over to, I can port over stuff from the monster traits table that we started making. Water walking. Yeah, water walking, that's fine. Water walk. Feature the magic can walk or run on water. Okay, something like that. We've got haste. The item changes colour. Colour change. Good idea. Gas and ice. Gas and ice. So Mara, I'm not sure. Gas and ice. What do you mean? What are we talking about here? Bowling pins that does siege damage. We're not making a specific item. Holding is a bag of holding. Oh, good lord. Here we go. Illusion of 5 warriors. Illusion of 5 warriors. Well, there's lots of different illusions we can make. Creating an illusion. I think what you're wanting to have is duplicate. Duplicate. Correct? Multiple illusions. Illusions of the wielder are created nearby. Correct? Is that what you were after? I think that was. Freedom as spelled. Freedom? Freedom? What do you mean freedom? What I don't understand. I'm confused. What you're trying to achieve here. Freedom. What are you talking about? Freedom is a spell. What are you trying to do there? Since I am a fan of attacking all parts of the sheet, may I present Dagger of Forgotten Tongue causes the attacker to forget his language and use for forget. So things that make you forget. Let's do that. Forget. Forever. Forget. The creature loses some of its memories. Loses. Okay. Forget. Got it. It's in. Immune to undead. Immune to undead. Immune to undead. I'm not putting it down. So something like resistance and immunity to stuff, but there's just definitely not putting immune to it. The problem with creating magical properties that are immunity to something, one, we don't need it. You can just decide something's resistant or immune if that's what you're looking for. But as a property, I don't think it's a good idea. I think you're better to leave it alone. Honestly, I'm going to leave it alone. Don't take it personally, Spirit Wolf. Doesn't look. It feels wrong. Okay, old school spell based magic club of cleaning. Anyone with this loses any dirt and debris from so clean. I think what you gleaming. Clean. Sure. Clean. Clean. The item never gets dirty or removes dirt magically. So clean, there we go. We've got clean in there. Protection from control. Okay, protection from control. Protection from mind control, I think that's what you're trying to do here. So let's P it. Mind control. Yes, I think that's what you're after. Gecko's Wool Walker. Stun. I mean, it's like Spider Climb. I just don't want to call it Spider Climb. Monster powers. Gives user the special abilities of X type of monster. Yeah, let's not go there. There's one thing you do not want to do is be giving the special powers of a monster to players. There are plenty of things you can do. You don't want to do that. I would not do that, frankly. Scion, what do you mean? You just said Scion. That's it. Stun damage. Stun damage. Okay, so stun. So you want something that will stun somebody. Stun. The creature is stunned by a magical effect for a period of time. Okay, stun. Got it. I'm going to just tell you right now to people who are looking and watching right now, it is very dangerous to give player characters the ability to stun monsters so they can't do anything. You'd be very, very foolish to be handing that out. If you're going to do it, make sure there's some sort of mechanical dice roll that's not that easy to achieve, because something like the monk, which people dump on in 5e, the fact that it can stun something, even for a short period of time, is a game changer. So stunning something it's always been the case, even back when you were playing something like 4e or 3.5, stunning a creature with your magical weapon or your magical item, it's really, really good. It's way good, better than you might expect. Particularly if you can stun a solo monster that's supposed to be fighting you and it's like a dragon. It's yeah. Put some restrictions. Light. Yes, it's a good idea. Light. Either glows or creates a globe of light. Yes, let's put that in. Light. The item. The magic item glows or creates magical light. Got it. It's in. Good idea. Okay. Somebody's mentioned Unearthed Arcana here. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Unearthed Arcana has some great magic items. Okay, alright. I don't actually have access to it, so. Freedom from web, paralysis, anything that limits your movement. Oh, I see. see what you're trying to do with that. Let me think about it some more. The item rusts and decays quickly through blood, can restore it to its prime condition. The item is invisible when viewed directly. This is a very specific item you're talking about. So I'm just doing properties today. I did one magic item. I took your guys' ideas. I put it in. We made something. The saber. We're not doing specific stuff right now. I just want to get a big, huge table, and we're moving fairly quickly as it happens. And I know we don't have that much more time left, but hey, it'll happen. It'll get done. It's going to work. It's going to get done because I keep coming back. It's not like I do a stream and I didn't do it. This is like the 6th one on magic items. Do I ever? Sunlight, X range. Sunlight? Well, I feel like that's like creating a light. So light. The magic item glows or creates magical light. I think that's all we need. I don't think we need anything more than that. Lore, knowledge, what? What are you trying to do there, Spirit Wolf? I'm not sure. This might be too broad, but spell effect. It just creates a certain spell effect, DM's choice. Yeah, I think it's way too broad. I think we keep it. It's like, I think every game master knows, or dungeon master knows, they could just look through all the spells and put the magical spell effect onto a magic item. We're not necessarily trying to do that, though. We're trying to be specific. Yeah, so we'll leave that one. Permanency from 5e. Permanency. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Are you talking about permanency from 2nd edition, or are you talking about permanency from 3.5? I think I know what you were after. If anything, permanency it's actually quite a dangerous thing to be handing out. We'll put it here. Permanency. I'm just gonna leave the word permanency for now. I know what you're talking about. Let's come back to that some of the time. Okay, we'll come back to that. It's on the list. While holding or wearing an item, it affects your mood. Oh, okay. Prone to anger, joy, depression. Okay, so mood. M. Mood. So mood changing. It affects or changes a creature's current mood. Okay, and one of my favorites, maybe not that popular nowadays, is alignment change. The item changes the alignment of the creature. So I often will use this to make a good character evil. Okay, so I'm putting it in. Alignment change. I know some people don't use alignment, so you won't ever use this one. Yep. While holding or wearing the item, I've got that one. Phantom stealth. Doesn't require an action to draw the weapon, even if it's stowed away. So this is not necessarily for weapons. Actually, maybe what I'll do is I'll get rid of this word. This is not going to help you. If you see the word weapon, you're always thinking weapon. Just magic item properties. That's all we're doing. But stealth. Phantom steed doesn't require an action to draw. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll put here stealth. So I'm not ditching your idea at all. Stealth. The creature can move silently over any ground surface. There we go. I think that's what you're trying to achieve there. Hummer's wizard friend and Dragonlance had robes that didn't get dirty, if I remember correctly. Yep, so we've got something that's covering that, so that's good. Cool. Also something that I don't know, this 100 magic properties table can be reversed. Yeah, it could be reversed. Of course it can be. So when it's finished, it'll just go up onto Patreon, and it'll be editable, so you guys can just add to it or ditch stuff, take stuff out, make it easier for you to make it your own. As in the opposite effect can be given, yes, which means this might be, yes, it could be, well, like that. Yes, I'm very aware that it could wind up being more than 100 different things. Okay. The item tells dad jokes to those that hold or wear the item. Oh my god. I'll put it in. Jokes. The item tells jokes. In any language. Here we go. There you go. You've got your joke-telling magic item. I haven't even really been able to get to my list of things. You guys have been throwing so many things at me. Reduce movement, slow down. Give me a moment. I'm trying to concept of a way to use True Strike. Please don't. please don't. Slow down. Reduce movement. Okay. Slow. We're just going to call it S for slow. Slow and pondering. Slow. Silence. Slow. The creature moves slower than normal. Well, moves slower than normal. Okay, got it. It's in. Shackles flyer for 2 combat. I have no idea. Understand. Bane? No. You're talking about the spell Bane. I'm not putting that in. Unless it's you're doing something else with it. I'm not just going to put the Bane spell in there. I'm not even going to put the silence as a silent spell. I'm going to sort of finesse it a bit, but not right now. I'm just trying to keep up with everybody. My book is falling apart, so I'll scan you some pages, Fred. That's all right. Are you talking about the 5e book, the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, 1st edition, 2nd edition? Which one are you talking about, Pale Rider? How's it going, Matt? How are you? Did you areas do a wall type magical effect like Wall of Force? Wall. So I'll put down wall. Oh, I can hear a little singing. A magical wall of some type is created. Sure, wall, got it. Polymorph, somebody's decided to have polymorph. Okay, so hang on, let's see. Read magic. Read magic, okay. Spirit wolf. Oh, geez. Read. I'm trying really hard to put them all into alphabetical, people. I really am. Read. That's not right. It's because resurrection's in the wrong place compared to that. So let's take this. Cut. Read. Read magic. Of the magic item can read all magic. Symbols. There we go. Let's read magic. Got it. It's done. Emotion, morale boost, or negative to enemies. Emotion, morale boost. Morale boost. Change. Morale. Okay. Morale boost. That's morale, or morale boost. The creature. I think in terms of morale boost, we'll call it something else. Let's call it something else. Here. Courage. The creature feels and acts in a braver manner. I think that's what you're after. Disguise. Here we go. Disguise. So disguise, we've kind of got transform already. I feel like it's already doing that. Transform to a new substance. No, that's. We got polymorph sitting underneath there as well. So, disguise or polymorph. We'll put polymorph. Polymorph in. Polymorph. Polymorph. The creature changes into a different creature or animal. Okay, that's good enough. I'm not going to say necessarily, I'm not saying creature isn't monster. It doesn't matter. Just polymorph. Okay. Ability bonus, strength bonus. Nah, forget about all those. Nah, don't worry about them. Read languages. Read languages. Read magic. Read languages. The user can the magic item can read all languages. Okay, got it. Alright, so breathe underwater. Water breathing. Essentially, heal minor wounds. Yeah, we've got that. We've got healing there. I put down the word healing. Water breathing. Ton of water. Water walking, water breathing. The creature. Oh, hang on, I can hear water running. Back a sec. Okay, water breathing, the creature can breathe underwater or air. Let's do that. Breathe underwater. That's really all we want, eh? Yeah, there, cool. Breathe underwater. Breathe underwater. Done, cool. How much time have I've got to go. Jesus. How far have I fallen behind? Artifact level bones to jelly. Oh my gosh. Cackles, crack. Okay. Underwater movement. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we don't have 50, but we're certainly, I would say we're almost halfway through this process. I don't think we're that far off it at all. I'm not going to run out of anything anytime soon, but there's no way I can. If I keep going, I'm going to be late for work. I cannot. There's a few ideas here. Warmth of command. Item reveals the direction, north, south, east, west. Do you know, Check? I gave out a magic item that did that, and the player has never stopped making jokes about the fact that I gave them an item that told them which way was north, south, east, and west. I mean, it's an ability, but unless players feel like it's going to be a big factor, it winds up being a great, huge pain in the butt. The only reason, Jack, I don't want to put that down is because I know how much trouble it gave me. Because he's never stopped heckling me about it, and so yeah, I get it. I thought it was a good idea. I'm just wondering if it is actually a good idea to actually put it into this list. Increase movement, i.e. haste. Yeah, we've got something that moves you faster. I just called it quick, that's all. I'm just not going to call it haste. I just called it quick. That's not too bad for a first sit down. That's over an hour. We've got 47ish, 46ish, 45ish. So we got a few down, and I haven't even had a chance to look through any of these books, which is great, which means we'll come back to them and we'll deal with them some other time. Yeah, that'll just have to be how it works today, unfortunately. So yeah, everybody did really, really well. Hope work goes quick for me. It's very unlikely, given that I will probably be shift coordinator, which means I have to run the show. When you have to run the show, things get more complicated. that's just life. And it's always bad if the shift coordinator shows up late. So yes, we'll be back to this, and I make sure I have actually called it. Let's get rid of this, because that will just confuse the hell out of people. So I won't put that there, and it's got the name that it needs to have at the top, and we will finish it in 2 months when we come back to this. Alright, let me just finish up this poll. Let's see how the poll turned out. So in the end, so I was right that making just a big huge list of 100 different magic item properties is really thanks Spirit Wolf, is really what people wanted. I kind of suspected that was the case. Do you know what I mean? That people would have preferred just to have a whole lot of different things they can select from. You can roll on a chart, you can roll a percentile dice to determine what it is, but you could just select them, which is kind of part of the fun. But that's one of the biggest problems when you make a magic item, is deciding what sort of abilities it's going to have. And if you have that resource and it's not just a word and it describes what it's trying to do, then it makes it a lot easier. I don't want to pigeonhole it into any game system in particular either. So yeah, all right, that is a done deal for us today. So I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons who support me on Patreon. I really do appreciate the fact that you are supporting me. Of course, as I said, everything that we do here will find its way to Patreon. It might take about 2 months for this 100 magic item properties to get to Patreon, but that doesn't mean that the notes for it won't, because I'll try to get onto that this week and get the stuff from last week and this week on there. I want to thank World Anvil for sponsoring this live stream. I really do appreciate it. It's a big deal when a sponsor decides to sponsor our live stream, not our edited video, but a 2-hour live stream. It is a big deal. So thank you, World Anvil. and you'll find their information in the description. Thank you to everybody who took part in the live stream today, and the poll, and the comments, giving me like way more ideas than I could possibly write down fast enough. Thank you very much. Anybody who's just watching, thank you, or is rewatching this. You're going to get some more edited videos, so thank you for watching the edited videos and putting up with the shorts videos. A lot of miniatures right now. I know, I'm doing a lot of miniatures. And wherever you are in the world, whether it be the morning, the afternoon, the night, or the wee early morning, please look after yourself, your family, and your friends. Be nice to your neighbours. And hey, maybe make yourself your own magic items, just little bitty, itty bitty ones to start off with. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.